God be with you. Welcome this morning to Hillhurst United Church on a beautiful summer morning here in Calgary. We welcome you here to this building, and we welcome people who are online, maybe people at a campsite or in their bedroom or backyard, wherever you are online. Around the world, we welcome you. Please say hello to us online. We're going to wave to you, mind letting people know we know they're alive and well. We're so glad you're here. My name is John Pentland, one of the ministers here at Hillhurst this morning. And we're so delighted that you are here after a great weekend last week with our Stampede lunch and bazaar. It was awesome. How many people were here? If you were here, just let know. And there were 26 people who volunteered to make that happen. That's a lot of people coming together to make a great morning, and we give thanks for that. Yeah. We will announce our pie winner at the break, which is coming up. We're going to delay that for you shortly. We have 4 core practices. Hospitality. It's hot in here. We welcome you to water and coffee and whatever. We also want to recognize that during the summer, people travel. So if you're traveling from anywhere, you're new today, and you want to just let us know, anybody traveling or visiting over here? You're all normal people that are always here, okay? Anybody here visiting? Great, we're glad you're here. We won't ask you where, just glad we see you. Anybody here? Welcome. So glad you're here. Others? Okay, and the regular people know these comfortable pews over here. We're welcome. Just a note, Richard Osler is here this morning from Vancouver Island. He's led us in poetry workshops, and I got to out you here. And so glad you're among us this morning. If you want a heads up for the question of the day, which comes partway through, we're going to force you to say something to your neighbor. Here's the question that's coming. What do you look forward to each day? What do you look forward to each day? That's coming. Okay. The second practice is spirituality. We are recognized not all people are religious, all people are spiritual. How do we nurture the soul life of each other and programs throughout the year? Go online for that. Social justice. Church, if it stays in a building, is only doing half the job. We have to take transformation and love into the world. And the fourth is risk. Those are our practices. So I invite us to the screen here. This is going to get you to our annual review. So this is a great photo story of the church here. You got to have your camera up and take a picture of that. I'll count to 15 seconds. But it'll appear again later. But this isn't a boring report. This is a photo picture of the year and people who participated in so many different ways. And you can get that online as well. If you're new to the church and you want to know what we do the rest of the week, there's a QR code, which we'll put up now. Another one. This lets you in on happenings, what's going on in our church throughout the week and how you might get engaged. And so we invite you to find that and find your way here. Let's remember that this land was stewarded before us, and invite us to see our land acknowledgement at this time.
What is land acknowledgement?
Those of us that are continuing our oral history are blessed. What we shared, that was told from way back.
We were part of the ecosystem. We were not masters of it.
After we grow up from our biological mothers, the earth becomes our caregiver. Everything that we need is there.
We were raised to believe that everything has a spirit and that everything around us is alive and has a purpose.
The spirit of the land and our spirit. You can't separate land and people.
In Treaty 7 territory, I'm accepted, I'm something, and I'm with my people.
We honor our ancestors by acknowledging Treaty 7 territory. We acknowledge the Treaty 7 nations, the Piikani First Nation, the Siksika First Nation, the Kainai First Nation, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, and the Tsuut'ina First Nation. We acknowledge the ancestral territory of the Siksikaitsitapi, the Blackfoot Confederacy, and the home of Métis Region number 3.
Thank you. We also want to draw attention to our affirming banner inside and outside. This says, you belong. You don't have to fit in here. You belong just as you are, regardless of age, stage, sexual orientation, religious or not, economic status. This work of the community is to say you belong, and so we hope you feel that you belong in this place. I invite Amanda to come up with our candle lighter. Anybody have a swim in the Bow River this week? Couple? Yeah, you got to do this. If you live in this city, you have to swim in that river. There's a challenge for the summer. It is so great. If you're feeling hot and sweaty, walk down to the river, jump in. We'll pick you up somewhere around Inglewood. I did a river raft run this week, swam every day. The water is so beautiful. We are so lucky on this land to have such great mountain water. And the temperature is really, really beautiful. Okay, invite us to light our candle. We light this candle as a sign of God's presence. God was here long before us, has always been, and the light invites us to remember that. I don't know about you, but when you ever have a dinner party, if you do, and you light a candle, there's always a moment as you light that candle that is silence as people wait with anticipation for that to light, as we wait now, because it's not easy. There you go. Here, you hold that. And we got that. Will you join us in the words on the screen?
Once there was someone who said such wonderful things and did such amazing things.
Thank you.
People began to follow him.
So whether you've had a great week or a challenging week, whether you bring good news or bad news, we come to draw into our center. I invite us to come as we sing. Let us rise if we're able. In this community of faith, we recognize that prayer is a mystery. As Padre Gotuma says, I'm not sure if I believe in God, but I sure believe in prayer. What I think he means by that is it's when we name our joys and sorrows aloud, we connect one to another. We hear another story in those words, silent or spoken, and they connect us. And it's in that connection that prayer unites us as one, to have the confidence and courage and peace to step into a new day. So we gather in this community, joys and or sorrows, people. I give thanks for you folks. This is our pop-up choir. They got here this morning, they popped up, and they're going to sing in a few moments. So I give thanks for the anticipation on their face. People to remember, I'll come back. Yeah, people, yeah. For Patrick, as he journeys his way through cancer. Yeah, people, yeah. For Rayanne in our community who died this past week, there's a celebration of her life on Tuesday. Yes, Rayanne and her family. People and places to remember, yeah.
Speaking of swimming, my friend swam the Okanagan 2.2K. Came second in rank. She's 82.
An 82-year-old friend who swam across the Okanagan Lake amongst how many other people? 1,200 people swimming. Nice, yeah. A mother of a friend who has inoperable brain tumor. Yes, Anna.
May we embrace the ebbs and flows of this intertidal time with caring, courage, kindness, faith.
Amen. We'll summarize by, may the Spirit be with us in these ever-changing, turbulent times. If you want the exact wording, you can check with Anna after. But yeah, we're living in challenging days. For those suffering with addiction, yeah. For your daughter who's struggling in what she believes. People, places in this space. Yeah.
Thanks to my new grandchild, a son, Jasper, he was born July 1st.
Grandson Jasper, born July 1st. Hallelujah. Yeah. For those who email in your prayers, they go to our prayer group, and those are prayed throughout the week. Those entering treatment this coming week, yeah.
Gratitude to my wife, Sandra, for putting up with me for 60 years.
Our gratitude for Sandra, who put up with this guy for 62 years. However, I gotta say something. So you're competing next month. What are you competing in?
We're going to Quebec City to represent Alberta in the Senior Summer Games.
Senior Summers Game tennis player, 83 years old, going to Quebec to play on behalf of our province. And we've been trying to have a game, but he keeps shying away from it. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, well, so glad you're all here. Joys and sorrows, sometimes they pop out, sometimes they remain silent. They are prayers nonetheless, spoken or silent. Take in the fact that we are connected one to the other. Let's gather in song as we sing our refrain. More light, more truth. We rest in this space just as we are right now. Feel the earth below us. Feel the breeze of the fans. Sounds of the keyboard. We notice the beating of our heart. We bring ourselves just as we are, present in this moment right now, leaving behind fears, regrets, mistakes. Being present in this moment and feeling our bodies. Remembering we are loved, forgiven, set free. Not rushing to tomorrow, but being present in this time. We offer our own confession, our own gratitude, our own concern as we rest in this quiet space. Give thanks that each of us have worth, though sometimes we don't feel it. Each of us have life as though sometimes we deny it. Help us as we ponder our life worth, our purpose, our meaning, our desire for happiness. Remember places in the world where violence and abuse and strife is present. May leadership rise and peace come for all. Pray this day and this summer season in our country for places where danger may occur, places where heat may cause strife, or floods cause peril. May we be stewards of this land, your body, the earth. Gather all our prayers together as we sing one more time, one light, one truth. Receive all these silent and spoken prayers as we gather them in song and the words that Jesus called us to live as we sing together the Lord's Prayer. The Bible is a collection of books written over a long period of time by different men and women, young and old, talking about their experience, their understanding of God. There's history, there's parable, there's song, there's poetry, there's letters, there's gospels. And all of it is in some ways helping people to share what they believe and who they believe God is. And from beginning to end, there's a common thread throughout, and that is a God of grace. And that God of grace knows us, loves us, forgives us, knowing that we all make mistakes, we all fall and stumble. And instead of staying on the ground, God helps us to rise, knowing these words: we are loved, we are forgiven, and we are set free. Challenge is for us to believe it and then live it, because the world desperately needs your grace to be lived in the world. So trust this: you're loved, forgiven, set free. Dare to believe it, hold it, and live it in the world. Thanks be to God. Amen. I'm going to invite our drop-in choir who started this morning to offer us song. Amanda, do you want to come up and announce our sorry?
Do you want to say the names and we'll Can you read the names? Let's start with Claire.
Okay, well, you're on. Here, you get close. Okay. So as she's coming to the break, so it's kind of funny in this church, you think, why do we have a break? Well, we have a break because we want people to know they're not alone when they come to this place. So the break's going to come in a moment. There's a chance to come forward and light a candle as a form of prayer or gratitude. There's a chance to get coffee and water. There's a chance to make an offering at the front or at the back. This church operates only by the gifts raised by this community, and so an opportunity to do that. And Kids Space people will meet at the back there. Sydney's there and Bethany for those who would like to be in Kids Space. So that's what's coming in a moment. Drum roll, we need a drum roll over there.
Is Elijah still there? No, we'll make our own drum roll. So last week we had our pie contest. If you were here, we had an amazing pie last week. It was all wonderful. In fact, Clara just today said, why didn't we make a pie? And I said, well, next year. So we'll have to do it again now, I think, just so Clara can make a pie with me, I believe. Right? Okay. Of the amazing pies, though, we had, how many entries did we have? Do you know? 18 entries last week. Wow, I didn't know we had that many. That's really cool. So in third place, we had Kim and Tula Sarsons. Are they here today by any chance? Oh, you are? Here, come, we have a ribbon for you. And in second place, we had Ev Goodall. Ev, are you here today? Oh, maybe, come up. There we go. And in first place, we had Yvonne Groff. Yvonne, I know you're here somewhere. Come on out. Yvonne, come get your. We have ribbons for you, so come get your ribbons.
Okay, come get your ribbon. That's awesome. So the story I told last week was, in the Calgary Stampede, this church, Hillhurst United Church, used to have a booth at the Stampede, sold pies and funded this church, and now it comes back to haunt you years later. We are so glad. Okay, so this is a break. I invite you to move. We're going to take 2 minutes because we want to get to Tim Tamashiro, who will be speaking with us after. So 2-minute break. Greet each other. Peace be with you. Move far in this, wide in this place. Peace be with you.
Well, as we start to find our way back to the pews. We're going to gather ourselves into this space again before we hear our scripture. And before we start to sing, just going to give you an invitation to feel the floor under your feet, to feel the pew or the seat you're sitting in if you're at home, to feel your breath, feel your body. Just take a couple seconds to breathe. We're going to sing a really simple refrain, gather us in, and it repeats over and over and over again. So as we're singing this, as we start to find our way back, we're just going to repeat it however many times it takes. Greg, could you help us out with this? Feel your breath as we're preparing for this. As we inhale and exhale. Not a lot of words. We can just close your eyes if you'd like and absorb it. It's okay. As we sing together. Gather us in, ground us in you. Gather us in, ground us in you. Gather us in, gather us in, ground us in you. Gather us in, ground us in you. Gather us in, ground us in you. Gather us in, gather us in, ground us in you. Let's do it one more time. Gather us in, ground us in you. Gather us in, ground us in you. Gather us in, gather us in, ground us in you.
Invite Terry to come forward. Nope, sorry, one more. Close. Close. Yeah.
Good morning. Today's scripture reading is taken from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 to 13. Everything has its time. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. The God-given task. What gain have the workers from their toil? I have seen the business that God has given to everyone to be busy with. He has made everything suitable for its time. Moreover, he has put a sense of past and future into their minds. Yet they cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. Moreover, it is God's gift that all should eat and drink and take pleasure in all their toil. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Okay. I asked you earlier the question of the day. I'm not going to ask you to move, but maybe turn to somebody behind you or near you, one group of 2 or 3, just for 1 minute as we set this up. What do you look forward to each day? What gets you up out of your bed into the day? What do you look forward to in your day? It all fits with their time. So I invite you to meet somebody. What do you look forward to your day? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for touching out briefly with somebody. I hope that wasn't too awkward. It's so important to know when we come into this room that we connect to another person and carry on perhaps that conversation later. I am delighted, and I use that, underline that word, and Tim will say something about that, to introduce and have Tim Tamashiro with us today. How many people knew Tim was coming today and are here to welcome him? I met Tim through a group of men that get together once a week to talk about the week and share stories over a cold refreshment. And then we had coffee about 2 weeks ago to have a chat with him about a book that he wrote called How to Ikigai, which we'll say something about. And when we had that conversation, I was like, you got to meet our folks, and they have to meet you. And he's a busy person, so it was either now or November, and I thought, let's go with now. And here we are. Tim, perhaps is known to you through the CBC radio as a person who did storytelling and music, thank you, through and jazz. Isn't that amazing how that works? So fun. And has many different twists and turns in his journey, and he'll say something about that. But first of all, I just want to welcome you to our space and ask you just to say a little bit about what you knew about our place. So you just said something interesting to me.
Well, thank you very much for your invitation today. I'm overjoyed to be a part of your congregation today and part of the service. John said, so how are you enjoying things? And I said, I am just so grateful for the amount of joy and welcoming and thoughtfulness. Very grateful to be here today and to be with you. And so thank you very much for your kindness.
Okay. So Tim, you grew up in rural Alberta. What was it like growing up in rural Alberta?
Well, I grew up in a place called Black Falls, Alberta. Black Falls, Alberta in the 1970s was a place of about 1,000 people, and I was the only visible minority that was there, myself and my brother. So that provided both challenges and opportunities. So I can say that I've taken advantage of them both.
All right. How does somebody from rural Alberta get to CBC and have their own show? Fill in the blanks there.
I don't know. And that's the answer, John. No. You know, it was. I've been blessed throughout my life to be able to just attract extraordinary opportunity. And that is just something that is, I'm, again, very grateful for, and very aware that I need to be grateful for it. So just one thing after another just kind of led me down the road to being a radio host. And when I received a phone call from a producer from CBC in Saskatchewan asking if I would be, have you ever thought about being on the radio? And I said, actually, I've been on the radio for about 4 months for a radio station here in Calgary, and I hated it. And I said, so no. And then he called again. And then he called again, and then somebody else from the higher-ups from Toronto called and said, we'd like you to be on the radio for a jazz program. And I said, well, that sounds interesting. So, and the rest was history. 10.5-year career with CBC.
Nice.
Lovely.
Nice. Some people may have known you through that, and some people may have known you through other TED Talks or this book, which is sort of the conversation I wanted to be on about today, How to Ikigai. Tell us a bit about how that book came into your bones and your body, and then to your hands to a book.
I've always felt a great sense of Ikigai. Ikigai is a concept that comes from Okinawa, Japan, where my grandparents were born. An impossible little island off the main island of Japan was called Hamahiga Island. It was about the size of maybe, I don't know, maybe 6 city blocks. It was very, very tiny. But Ikigai is this philosophy created by these wonderful women in Japan called ama divers, and basically they realized that they loved being divers to gather food every day for their communities. So they called themselves, they called it Ikigai, life in a shell, to do something that they loved to do and something that they were good at. And they saw how it benefited the community, and they saw how they were rewarded for it, both intrinsically for good for their soul, but they were also sometimes rewarded for it extrinsically as well. They were paid for their fish. So this is the concept of Ikigai. It's a four-part idea. It's essentially a map. It's do what you love, do what you're good at, do what the world needs, and do what you can be rewarded for. And then just repeat that boomerang.
Let's put the boomerang up here so people might want to see that.
There's a slide for that, everybody.
There's a slide. Here it comes.
There you go.
So can you say that again? Just help us walk.
Do what you love, do what you're good at, do what the world needs, and do what you can be rewarded for.
Huh.
Yeah.
And when you came across this concept and you heard the story, how did you come to discover, and you can tell us what your Ikigai is?
The idea of being an entertainer or delighting people really came to me when I was about 21 years old. And I remember laying in bed that day thinking and being thankful for the fact that I didn't have to go into the job today. And I thought to myself, is this what life is supposed to be about? Is to constantly get better paying career and advancement, and then you just basically live your life doing things for other people. And I wondered to myself, is it possible to do something that I love to do? And that's when it dawned on me. I sat up in bed that day and I went, I'm gonna go to music school at Red Deer College. And I auditioned and I got in without having known how to read music. But I learned how to read music over the summer, and they accepted me. And that was the beginning of doing what I love to do, and that is to entertain people. I realized, though, over my career of entertaining and being a record rep and being on the radio and telling stories, etc., my real joy in life is to delight people. And that could be just a simple introduction to meet some of you lovely people today, or to see somebody on the street walking their dog and to have a brief conversation about what their dog's name is, or what joy dogs bring. Or it could even be just a simple interaction of just maybe even just dropping a few coins into the hands of somebody who really needs it. That is my true north. That's what I realize that I have to do every day because I'm good at it, and I know and I love to do it. And that is a gift that I can provide to the world on a regular basis. And I am rewarded for it, intrinsically, especially in my heart. And that is very important to me. So to delight.
Yeah, and you said, so your Ikigai is to delight. Do you have a t-shirt that says to delight?
I don't, but that's a good idea, John.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I might get a tattoo on my forehead that says that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, you have a tattoo, I'm told.
I do, yes. I have a finger mustache.
There you go.
That is on my finger, and this is something that I've done in order, specifically when I had it done, I did it for 2 reasons, and I'll tell you what they are. The first reason is so I never go into politics. Because nobody will ever take somebody seriously who has a finger mustache, right? The second reason is to get as many smiles and laughs as possible. And my goal, I said at the time, I want to get 1 million smiles from this. And I'm pretty sure I'm at right around 10,000. So I have a lot of work to do.
So you in your book, you talk about Ikigai and tell stories about how that work is done. You also talk about the importance of contemplation or mindfulness or meditation, how central that is. One of the things I say to people about Hillhurst United Church has a ground floor in the contemplative movement. And what I mean by that, there's daily meditation online, 7 to 7:30. There's people who meet in this building and online to learn and to grow and deepen their own contemplation skills. What's the connection between mindfulness and Ikigai?
I would say to be conscious of the fact that we know, if we're mindful about the fact that we have gifts, then we can be mindful as well that we need to share them as often as possible. Mindfulness is the everyday heavy lifting of just realizing that we have things in life that we need to do as often as possible. We need to be calm. We need to be centered. We need to realize that all people suffer, and we need to understand and share compassion as much as possible. So by sharing our gifts, it's an act of compassion.
Yeah, you say that. You say we tend to focus on our weaknesses all the time, and you say, no, we should be focusing on what our strengths are, right? Our gifts. And when we do that, what happens? What's your sense of what happens to us when we do that?
You amplify your gifts. You know, I could say that I love hockey and I'm a lousy hockey player, and I could put 10,000 years of effort into trying to be a better hockey player, and Wayne Gretzky put 10 minutes of work into it, and his work's amplified, or his talent's amplified. My talents would only move a little bit. So if we just focus on our strengths and dare I say, just put the weaknesses on the back burner, know they're there, then perhaps we can have a greater impact on our own joy and well-being, and on the happiness of others as well.
Okay, and during the prayers, Anna mentioned, we're giving the events this past week and the politics. I know you don't want to go there, but I want to go there in some ways because we're all connected to it. When we're living in the times we are, when it's so challenging and it can be depressing and we don't want to know what's going on, how does Ikigai address some of the struggles that are in the world so that it's not just a Pollyanna pie in the sky escape, but actually engage in the world?
That's a really hard question to answer, John. Thank you for putting me on the spot. But I do have a thought on that. If we focus on delivering our own gifts or experiencing our own gifts, it makes little ripples. And those little ripples happen throughout the community, and maybe they can make somebody else's life a little bit better as well. I'm very much a person who believes that I can't affect world politics. I can't affect city politics, for that matter. I can't affect a lot of things, but what I can affect and what I can have control over is my own joy and my own non-suffering, I guess, or less suffering in my own context. So I would say just by focusing on your Ikigai, on your gifts, this is something that you can share on a very regular basis, if not every day, hundreds of times. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. I think that's right. Otherwise, we're living in a time where people feel disengaged or they feel alone. But if I hear what you're saying properly, if we engage in our gifts, then we are coming out with the best of who we are. And who knows how the best of who we are transforms someone who's really struggling alone or angry or bitter, and how that's contagious in some ways.
That's exactly it. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, tell us about, I know you did a freaky kind of trip. You decided to go Buddhist for a while. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm still Buddhish.
Good. I'm Christianish.
Yeah, you're Christianish.
I'm Christianish,
yeah. I call myself a bit of a buffet Buddhist because I just choose the things that I like from the buffet of Buddhism. But I had a period of time during the pandemic where I knew that everybody in the world was suffering. My particular brand of suffering came in a mental health challenge. A couple of times I ended up in the hospital. And I knew that I had to find some sort of a way to deal with my own suffering and be able to understand what it is. And I looked to the Buddhist practice of the Four Noble Truths, which is, if you're alive, you suffer. And if you suffer, there has to be a cause for it. If there's a cause for it, there has to be a way to reduce your suffering. And the way to reduce it is something called the eightfold path to not suffering, essentially. It's just living a wholesome life. It's the exact same lessons that Jesus taught. Live a wholesome life. Be kind. Be compassionate. Have a wholesome living. Have a wholesome way of looking at life. Know that your impact on the world can be very, very great if you just allow it to happen. So essentially what I did is look towards Buddhism as a way to be able to reduce my own suffering. And wouldn't you know it, the algorithm started showing me videos on YouTube from a young monk in Thailand named Lumpi Nik. Lumpi is a brother. And there was an experience where they invited men from around the world to go ordain as Buddhist monks in Thailand in English. So that's what I did. I got to go to Thailand and I ordained and lived a very simple life of monkhood and learned about suffering and came out of it on the other side with a profound respect for sharing compassion and for understanding that I am only in control of my own suffering.
Beautiful. And there is lots of connections between Buddhism and Christianity. They would say Buddha and Jesus were brothers.
There is a school of thought that says that Jesus disappeared for many years, up until he was about 33. There's a school of thought that says that Jesus may have actually been studying Buddhism.
I can imagine that. I can imagine. It makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. You know, Christianity has got such a bad rap. In particular, it's just so prevalent. And, you know, one of the reasons that I engage, and I think this church is to seek to remember the good religion that is present in Jesus' teachings and how it gets worked. I kind of think Jesus sometimes gets gowned.
He is love.
He's all about love, and somehow he seems to be about lots of hate and division. And so part of our work is to try to honor the truth of who Jesus is. I mean, the cross is a symbol of the fact that everybody suffers and is present today. How do we address that, name that, live that, and honor that in each other's lives so that the suffering actually can be a way to gift others with joy and delight. You know, one of the things about your book is I'm going to get, each one of my kids are going to get this book. I've read the book. It's great for young people, but say something about us elderly-ish folks and why this book matters.
Says the world's youngest looking elderly-ish man. Yeah. You know, I'm contemplating the idea of a lot of people that I speak to about Ikigai are people who have led, you know, extraordinary lives in our 50s and into our 60s and that sort of thing. There is a challenge that leans into what I would call the bardo, or the in-between of a life of labor, I guess you could say, and a life of non-labor, the retirement. So I'm leaning into the idea of creating something that I would say is called golden Ikigai, where we are able to look at Ikigai as using our gifts throughout the remainder of our lives, after our services that we do as far as raising kids and earning an income. Ikigai is something that if we understand what it is, if we can name what it is that we love to do and what we're good at, that is something that we can continue to do for the remainder of our lives. And that ultimately is something that is going to bring us greater purpose and a greater sense of well-being as well.
Yeah. Oh, I know, because I mean, there's so many folks who have so many gifts and yet feel alone or disconnected or not able to live because of regret into the present and into the future. Because in some ways, your book is the present is now. I mean, that's the attention that Buddhism brings you to.
Yeah, and for I need to qualify something though, John. You know, the thing is that in life we aren't provided with the tools to be able to understand what we love to do. We get a lot of read and write and arithmetic. We don't get a lot of tools to be able to understand that our work in life is to be able to actually do the research and gather the evidence for what it is that we love to do and what we're good at. And if we can identify that, that is the gift of Ikigai, and that is what's going to turn into, that evidence is the thing that's going to lead you to greater understanding of purpose and well-being.
You know, when I read your book and we had coffee at Higher Ground, when you asked about what do you think your Ikigai is, I immediately said, I think my Ikigai is to connect, Because I've always thought of myself like a little plug. I love connecting people. You've got a story, you got a story, you got to meet each other. I love making connections. And I thought it was connection. And then I read your book. And I realized as I read the book that I think my Ikigai is, my life worth is, and what gets me up in the morning to the question of the day is this line, to play.
To play.
To play.
To play.
That I love to play. Anybody who knows me well knows I love to play with ideas. I love to play with scripture. I love trash talk. I love competition. I love play. And every opportunity, at the end of the day, when I'm laying in bed, if I'm thinking I had a good day, I can tell you when I played. And it goes back to being a kid to right this very moment. And play isn't frivolous. It's really a creativity. It's looking at curiosity and how does that work. And I know when I'm having a really great conversation, that conversation can sustain me. So what I found in your book is it really invites us to consider going a bit deeper about what is it that you delight, or what is it that gives you purpose in your day. And I think when we focus on that and live that, at the end of the day, we feel like we've had a day that matters. And I really love that about your book. It's for every age, and it invites us all to consider what really gets us up into the day to live it most fully. And that's a great gift.
You know what's even more important? I just want to point out an interesting exercise that just happened. You said at the beginning that you felt that your Ikigai was to connect, but you went and you put some sober second thought into it. And you went, wait a second, there's a better way to describe this. And whether it was just something that just popped up in your mind, or whether it was something where you went to the thesaurus and you were looking up words that were connected to it. The thing is that you came up with a name for your Ikigai that makes absolute sense to you. And once you name it, that's the beginning to understanding it and acting on it on a more regular basis. So you'll think about your Ikigai 100,000 times over the next part of your life. And you'll go, that's all I have to do when I put my feet on the ground, when I wake up in the morning, is to play.
2 questions. Does our Ikigai change?
I'm not convinced that it changes. I think it's something that is innate in us that we love to do when we were children. I loved to delight when I was a child. You probably loved to play when you were a child, right?
Totally.
But there are also children who like to break stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And I've met a man who literally says that's his Ikigai, is to break things.
Right. Nice.
And because he's a software engineer, and that's what he likes to do. He loves it with the challenge when the software doesn't work. So he was probably really having fun this week because of Microsoft having a ball.
And the thing is, we say this with the Enneagram, don't Ikigai somebody else.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Don't you're this. No. You have to come to it yourself.
You can't prescribe it. No.
Can't prescribe it. Okay. Last question comes from David Gray, who's not able to be here, but a mutual friend of ours. He says, John, you and Tim have something in common. You have to practice what you preach. Mm-hmm. So how does that work for you? Like when have you noticed, I'm not being Mr. To delight or to play? How does that work, practicing what you preach?
That's a form of mindfulness now as well, definitely. Practicing what I preach, thus, going and being a monk. That's why I still have this haircut. That's part of it. But practicing what I preach is very, very important because I know that I'm not BSing myself.
Yeah.
This is a mindfulness exercise as well. If I can be true to myself, that reduces my suffering, right? And if I find myself veering off from being delightful, all I have to do is go, well, that's not me. That's not who I am and what I stand for. So again, compassion plays a very big role in my understanding of delighting now. and that is just simply to just be thoughtful, to be the light.
Yeah, and I think of, for me, practice what I preach, I know when I'm cranky, when I'm not fun, when I'm short with somebody, or hard on myself, it's because I've forgotten to play. And I think, I look at the window up there of Jesus, he sure doesn't look like a playful guy. And yet when you read the scriptures, talk about playful, curious, person who delighted, person who Jesus basically said, be compassionate. And everything we have that people are saying about Jesus, he didn't say or he didn't do. And the playfulness, the delight, the curiosity, the presence, capital P, that Jesus invites us to. I think when we tap into that presence, we are tapping not only into our Ikigai, but we're tapping into the Creator and the divine that's in you and me and in fact everybody. And imagine a world if we could actually see and pay attention to the divine in the world and in each other, how delightful that would be. So I want to say thank you for sharing your delight with us this morning.
It also helps to know how to make water into wine.
That helps. That worked. Like I said, he played a lot.
Yes.
He played it. There was a lot of experiments before that one happened. I want to thank you, and here's two things for you. One is we want you to go home and delight in some Twisted Church Hillhurst tea.
Oh my goodness, that's
to
lovely.
Delight monks like tea, I'm told.
You.
And then when you're out and you need to have a hot drink, this is a Hillhurst coffee mug. We invite you to share that, and somebody might say, where'd you get that? And you can tell them about being here to share delight with us. I want to thank you, Tim, for being here
so nice.
To offer your delight with us and to invite us to consider our Ikigai, our purpose, and we'll look forward to having you back here in November. Footnote, he goes, what are you doing right now? What is your job right now?
I am a speaker on cruise ships. Isn't that something?
That kind of sounds playful.
I go to the Mediterranean in 2 weeks.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then you're going somewhere else, and you'll be back among us. We've been delighted to have you. Tim and Greg are going to offer us a song, so invite us to hear this gift. But let's
nice round of applause for Greg, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. This is a song that I think really sums up. This is the way I end all my shows, John. It's a song that really sums up the fact that today, look to this day, for it is life. And it's about brotherhood, and it's about sharing kindness. And here's a little song that Louis Armstrong made famous. I see trees of green and red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright, blessed day and the dark, sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, the colors of the rainbow are so pretty in the sky, and they're also on the faces of all you people sitting by. I see friends shaking hands, they're saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies crying, and I've watched them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yeah, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Pop-Ups. Thank you. As we go, just invite you to touch the shoulder near you, just gently, just to remind them they're not alone. Just touch a shoulder near you. And as we go out into this wonderful world with its joys and its suffering, may we go with the divine spark, the Ikigai within you all, so that we might be a people who transform the world. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one God, Mother of us all. Amen.